Welcome to the Andy Noise Experience, the podcast, Endurance Noise, Random Musings. It's Friday, October 2nd, and we're talking to the Jester, who's in the middle of his 72-hour race, almost literally. How you doing, Ed?
Doing good. Holding up, It feels like day two of a 3-day race. It's always, day two is always a tough day. It's the toughest of the three typically, but getting through it.
Day two is the toughest, I think. I mean, I haven't really done too many 3 days. But the 6th day, when I did my first 6th day, I remember day one, because you're like, woohoo, we're in a race. And day two, I just had a terrible time. And I remember Jamil saying to me, he's like, well, it's like backpacking. Day one, you're happy to be out there. Day two, reality hits, like, oh, shoot. But then like day three, you're kind of like, this is my world. This is what I'm doing. And you just kind of get in it. But day two seems to be, and the only time I've tried 72 hours, which I've actually failed it twice. So let me bring you up to date, Ed. You're at 126 miles, 33 hours. You're 33 hours in. This Jennifer McHale's been really rolling well. She's at 124.
Yeah, she's really been strong. She pushed through the night and got to the 100 and then took a sleep break. She didn't sleep at all. And then she had been ahead of me, actually. She was in first place overall. And then when she went down for her nap, I was able to move up ahead of her. But she's been slowly creeping up on me, and she's actually moving out here a little faster than I am right now. So, it's the way it goes. But we'll see what happens through the night. I know this is her first multi-day, and I think she has the number 200 firmly planted in her head, which I happened at Lotzi as well, that the guy who was in the lead, Jordan, really strong runner, Badwater finisher, and he had 200 in his head, and when he got there, that was it. So
that's always the case. That's the worst part about being an American is you get those 200, you get those landmark things in your head, and you just, you see it all the time. People get to that number and then they're just like, okay, I'm done with this. And I was looking her up and I saw that she's basically done 100-mile races. She's done the Olmsted and the other one that's in Vermont, the Vermont 100.
What kind of finish times does she have in the hundreds?
She doesn't do a lot of races. She ran last year. She did Olmsted in North Carolina in 2021.
Wow, that's fast.
And then Vermont in 2018 was 22:54. Have you done Vermont?
No, I have not.
I didn't know if you'd ever gotten out there, or Olmsted. Probably not either one of them.
No, neither of those. Nope.
Yeah, because I guess.
Go ahead.
What's it? Oh, I was going to say because Vermont would have been part of the Grand Slam if you had chosen to do that.
I had so the Grand Slam, the way that worked out for me, the year I did Western States, I got my Vermont, paid for that. Hey, Super Dave, got my Leadville, paid for that, and then Wasatch has this really weird thing. You got to first get on their list, and then you got to send in your check by a certain deadline. And I got on their list, and then I realized, I'm behind the deadline. So I contacted the guy. He's like, nope, sorry. I'm like, you already said I'm on the list. I'll overnight express it to you. Nope, that's the rules. And I'm like, well, is there anybody else who's going for the slam? Yeah, one other person. Same thing. They're out. And I'm thinking, how difficult? It's so hard to get into the slam. And I was already on their list. It wasn't like I was trying to say, hey, can you put me on the list? I was already on the list. It's just he was a stickler to where, nope, you didn't send your check in. And and that was in February, and the race wasn't until September. It's like, really, dude? And that was my opportunity to do the slam. And I was just so disheartened. I didn't even go out to Leadville or Vermont. It's like, you know what? Screw it. And I should have gone out and done them because I paid for them, but I just didn't have the heart after that.
Yeah.
So, that's my experience with the slam.
Yeah, with Vermont. I was pretty certain you hadn't done it, but sometimes it's hard to keep track of. But I was thinking, I don't think Ed's ever been out to Vermont. But nope. Yeah, it's that. But then the whole slam, you would have had a really hard time at Leadville. When I went there a couple years ago to crew and pace an athlete, that 10,
Yeah, I swear.
there it is. Camille's running by. That
Yeah.
10,000 foot starting zone and the altitude, it definitely difficult.
Yeah.
So
I actually 2013 DNF'd at Leadville, so I got all the way to it's an out and back, and this is the year that they had like 1,200 people signed up.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
crazy. A single track, and you have people that are going out and coming back with poles. It's like, it was just so ridiculous, and they got so much flack. They just really burned themselves on that. But anyway, I got to Winfield, the turnaround, and then came back, and coming back, it's cheaper going up Hope Pass than it is, on the way out. And I was having such a struggle with the altitude, and once you get up to the top, if you miss the cutoff, there's no way down except on your own 2 feet. And I just I turned around partway up. My time was looking really bad, and there was no one else behind me that I could see. And I just decided, nope, I'm going to go back to Winfield, which I did. So that's one of my. I've got 300 milers that I need to get redemption. That's one of them, Leadville, and let's see, twice Mogiel Monster. I've DNF'd that one, so I need to do that one. I'm trying to remember what's the big one in LA? Not Angeles Oaks.
Angeles Crest?
Yeah, Angeles Crest. That was just this last year that I DNF'd that one, so that's when I go back and get my redemption on. So Vermont, you started to tell me about Vermont. We got kind of sidetracked on that. Oh, yeah. You're telling me about Jennifer and that she had done that race.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, she hasn't done a lot of 100-mile races, but those are the Olmsted and Vermont. So just out of curiosity, East Coast gal. So
all right, I was going to ask, how about the men? There's a guy who he's like creeping up on me. I'm still, I think, 7 or 8 miles ahead of him, but he's just really taken off and moving really well. He's third place right now, men.
Yeah, you're at 126, and then there's this Kamani Smith guy from New York who's 40, who is at 118, and then the Matthew Weiner guy who's 53 from Pennsylvania, and he did a 14:22 last lap, so that must be who he's at 116, but he's 10 miles behind you. That's 2.5 hours.
All right. Well, he'll probably pass up. Oh, how's the second guy's name? Kamani? What's the second person?
Kamani Smith, Kemani.
Okay.
He's 40.
Nice guy, African American guy, and I've got a chance to talk to him. And his wife's out crewing. I've been teasing her, but his name, I keep messing up on his name.
I have no idea. I destroy any names. You should hear me doing my podcast when I'm trying to do the Ethiopians and the Kenyan names. I just give up. I call them Ruth and whatever their first name is generally. But I mean, I'm amazed I can say Ettenhouse. I'm probably not even saying it right. I'm phonetically the worst. It's Ke and then Mani Smith. So Kemani and he's second, and then that Matthew Weiner is 53, and then the thing is, Michael, the guy who was racing with you all last night, he's at 114. He definitely kind of slowed down quite a bit. He must have taken a big break or something. Now, have you taken a break?
So here's how the breaks worked for me. That my saving grace is I've just taken shorter breaks than everybody else. So I did a break at midnight. My typical just go down and wake up when I wake up. And so Seamus has a tent here, and he's got a blow-up mattress because I have this little area with a folding table that I was going to sleep on. But he said, hey, you can, because he was doing kitchen duty. He said, hey, you can sleep in the tent. He said, I'll put the heater on, make it all nice. I said, no heat. I don't want it. That's too cozy. So I went in there and got about an hour, 10 minutes sleep, and got back out there, and that worked a little while. Then I started getting sleep again. So then I went down on my little spot. Again, another hour 10. My body just woke up and it woke up.
Yeah.
And then I've taken 2 like 15-minute power naps.
Yeah.
My adrenals have just been, they start to where they start aching a bit. So I've figured out that the best thing to do when that happens is to take a little break. So, but even those 2, I laid down, and I guess because in my mind, I knew I wanted to be able to, get up within 10, 15 minutes. And so, 15 minutes later, I'm awake and back out there. So, I'm feeling actually really good as far as not feeling sleepy. So my goal is, I figured out if I can try and get in like 10 miles every 3 hours. I seem to be doing that with my sleep breaks in there. That seems to be working. I don't know if I can get away with doing, 10, 15-minute sleeps through the night. That may not, I may need to take something longer, but I know the other people have been taking some pretty decent sleep breaks, and that's really my saving grace, that I can get by on less sleep and I get enough recovery or refreshment that I can get out there and have some decent speed. Last night, it rained. Well, I can't call it rain. It was sprinkle and misting, but it was enough to where, it gets you wet, and I didn't bring any rain gear. So
You were saying that.
I just grabbed a big old garbage bag and put a hole in it and stuck it over my head and got through the night. Wasn't too bad. Unfortunately, my clothing I had on had gotten kind of wet and damp, so it was a little cold, but nothing like hypothermic or anything. But actually, I think that sometimes, things like that, like being cold, how it keeps you awake, like you got something that's uncomfortable. So I think it worked in my favor in that regard. And then the sun popped out. It was probably about 9 o'clock before the sun came out, about the time, maybe 10, shortly after the next group of racers headed out. These guys are really cool. They've got these signs that they've been putting out, and you know how it is. Anything to stimulate your brain that's different is good. I'm on with Andy Noyes, a podcast with Andy Noyes. So let's see your signs.
Oh, yeah.
Running is a mental sport, and we are all insane. Yep. Blisters or Braille for awesome. Yep. Worst parade ever. Watch your head look alive. These are awesome. You guys make these up yourselves?
I
Or?
make them, yeah. I steal the ideas from other people. And
Cool. Love them. Thank you. It's helpful for sure. Yeah. So, you look for little things like that. It's like, it reminds me of Groundhog Day, where, he had to go over and over and over through the same day every day. And then the final, day, he wakes up and the I've Got You Babe song is not playing on the radio. And he's like, this is different. And Andy McDowell says, is that good? And he says, anything different is good. And it's like out here, anything different is good. But, it's again, a lot of cool scenery, and Camille is flying by, but my friend Marisa,
I noticed,
is like really moving strong. If it wasn't for Camille, she'd just be blowing the race up. But hey, Alan. But
I saw her name, Marina Del Rey, and I was like going, I should know who this person. I'm sure if I saw a picture of her, I'd be like, in fact, I'm going to Google it right now, because it's been bugging me. Like, I'm like, this name just sounds.
She's done really well in. I saw her at Nanagoat last year, and she won for the females and took the course record, like 1:15, I think. But then she had another 24-hour race where, if I remember right, she had some really big miles. Maybe it was Desert Solstice.
Yeah, she's been at Desert Solstice. That's what most of the pictures, when you Google it, it comes up as Desert Solstice. Yeah, she won Desert last year, I think.
Wow.
So
I have a friend from Texas. Her name is Andy, by the way. Talking about, Andy McDowell and you being Andy. But so I every time and she looks very much like Marisa. So I kept calling Marisa Andy at nanny goat, and she never corrected me. And then, we joked about it afterwards. Well, for like 5 hours, every time she'd go by, I'd say, "Nice work, Andy. You're doing great, Andy." Never once did she correct me. And then when I came around and we were coming into the timing area at the same time, and I saw her name, it was like, "Oh, Marisa, why didn't you ever say anything?" She's like, "No, it's okay." So now I tease her. "Here she comes. There's Andy right there."
Is that going to be a running joke?
This is Andy Noyes. We're doing a podcast.
Tell her way to go. She's doing great.
What about Andy?
No, I just looked her
Okay.
up, but I was just looking here. But yeah,
You're doing great, Marissa. Keep it up.
but I was looking up. She won the she did 148 miles at Desert Solstice.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, last year I guess.
This is her first 48 hour.
Yeah,
And she is looking really good. She must be second overall.
Oh yeah,
again,
like I said, I've been kind of doing little updates every 8 or so hours and on my own, and then of course I knew I was going to talk to you. So yeah, Camille is at 64, she's at 61. Camille's averaging 8:31 pace for the race, and Marissa's at 9 flat. And
nice.
So yeah, and then Bob Hearn, he's doing his steady Bob. He's at 54 miles. His last mile was 10:22, and his average is 10:13. So he's just doing that rock solid how Bob always is. So he's.
I think he's shooting for 2:38, and I didn't catch from him if that's American age record or world age record. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's his goal. And then of course, Camille, I heard 2:48. She's shooting for that. Although Bill Hildebrand and I got a chance to chat a bit, and there's this Russian woman who used to have the 24-hour record until Camille broke it. Well, she went out to this race. It was a certified course, and she did. Okay, so the record. There was a Japanese woman that Bill knows, and she did 399 kilometers. It's like, oh, that's got to kill you. But anyway, that was the record for the 48. And so this Russian woman who's won Spartathlon a couple of times, set the women's course record. She was out there, did the women's course record at Badwater. And of course, used to have the 24-hour race record. Well, from what Bill was telling me, she did,
I have it here.
Like 401 kilometers. But it wasn't an IAU labeled race or something crazy, even though it was a certified course. And so she did all that effort and no record. Yeah. So I'm thinking Camille, if she can, she should try and if she can hit 250. That way it'll be an uncontested
most definitely.
Record.
The USA 24-hour guys often put out good little posts on racing. I don't know if you ever see them on social media, but they often put out some stuff. And so they kind of broke it down for us. The women's record, USA record. Can you hear me yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Tracy Falbo. Of course, we were there. She did that 2:42 in the indoor. That was 11:53 pace. So I remember her just rock solid. And then I remember I was saying on the other podcast, like she went down and slept, and I thought, there's no way she's getting up off the ground. And then she got up and kept going. But and then the last miles or so, she definitely was struggling with the lean and stuff.
She was in the lean. She left it all in the course. She completely. Well, you were there. You saw. She just collapsed.
Yeah, it was probably.
And she wouldn't even when she crossed the timing mat, and there was a little bit of time left, like. Keep going, to get the last, and she just couldn't even go any further. But that was pretty amazing to watch. So I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing Camille do that here.
Yeah. So she was the 2:42, and then like I said, the Japanese gal did it in Sturgis, France, back in 2010. She did 246 miles. And what was really cool is Sturgis. I remember reading about it back in the day. They used to have a world-class 48-hour there all the time, like every year, and everybody would show up, the big guns. And it'd be great if we got another big 48-hour race back. And then, that lady who I'm not even going to say her name, we'll call her Pat. She did the 401 and the Athens International Ultra Marathon Festival, 1,000-mile race in Greece. And she actually averaged incredibly for the whole thing, something like 11:33 per mile pace was her pace for that.
Yeah.
So,
But for 48 hours solid, that's phenomenal.
And then the men's USA record, because I'll just kind of go through this with you, is Oliver did a 2:62 at that Icarus race that you've been to. I don't think you guys were there at the same year. No. And I was telling people, I think he did that pretty much solo because there's never a lot of people at that race, and it rains a lot there. It's not the easiest place to run a fast race, I'm sure. Yeah, so he's 2:62. And then, of course, Kuros, one of the things was kind of misleading people were talking about is, Kuros is road best, which I guess what you're doing, but they don't delineate now between road and track, I think, anymore in the world records. But his road best is 2:69, but his track best is an incredible 2:94.
2:90. Yeah, I knew it was up close to 3. Yeah, that's just it's so hard to imagine.
9:40. He did 9:47 pace. He did 9:47 miles for 48 hours.
Yeah, that guy was just he's like an alien. He's just out of this world.
Well, yeah, his 24-hour record is like 300 kilometers. He's like he's a half a marathon better than the best American. He's 13 miles farther than the best American ever in the 24-hour race. So it should be interesting to see how they do. So
yeah, the thing, and of course there's absolutely no comparison between me and Giannis. I couldn't even, I don't know what the phrase is, but I couldn't even, lick his boots. I mean, he is just so
they
far
say
out.
Carry his jockstrap is what it is.
Exactly. There it is. But because he only did like 70 races and he won, just one, but set world records. He has 62 wins for as far as I could tell. I have 52, so if I can get 11 more wins, I can pass him up for the winningest in the world. Of course, my races don't compare anything to his, but hey, it's something to shoot for,
Yeah.
But it's only because he only did like 70. I mean, if he did, because I just did, this was my 190th when I hit 100. If he did anything like that, he'd have 170 wins. But of course, the body I don't think could. I'm beating my body up so badly. Of course, he did his over.
It's also there weren't as many races back then. You always have to remember that. I always tell people, now there's a 100-miler, as you well know, every weekend, so you can go for 60 in a year.
Yeah.
There goes
Bob. Yeah.
But you can get 60. You can get 60.
I'm talking to Andy Noyes on a podcast. He said, "You're, as always, steady as a machine."
Yeah. So, but I mean, now there's so many races, but obviously Kuros too. He was getting paid to do races, so he was only, I mean, like the London Marathon is this Sunday, and they're talking about Kipchoge, who's the best marathon of all time. Broke 2 hours in that, the time trial.
Right.
And he's won at, but you know how many marathons he's run in his career? 14.
Wow. I figured it would be pretty small. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when you're talking about really elite guys, they definitely don't race as much, but, and then of course, when you get into ultraing, I mean, what you're doing is, as we know, is crazy how many you can do and how many you put a string together. So, in fact, I was talking to our buddy, Canadian Scott, and he enjoyed the podcast yesterday, and now he's jonesing to do a race somewhere, somehow, virtual or something. So I've been like, hey, put on a race, just go and sign up like you did with your race, and put on a virtual 100, put on a virtual 100 or something. And so people really liked it when we were talking to Amy and Bill, and it sounds like, this is a really nice race, and people definitely, I think if they have it, hopefully now they're going to do it in May next year if they can, right?
Yeah. Seamus checking in with Andy on a podcast.
Yeah, what's going on, bro?
Hey, Seamus.
He said, hey, Seamus. All right, Camille. Looking strong. Yeah.
Now, is she wearing the Nike Alpha Vaporflies?
I don't know what it is.
They're big. It's shoes.
It's a neon green and white shoe. She
But
goes
they're
so
big padding.
fast. How can I tell?
Yeah.
I mean,
but
she is a friend. I suppose I could say, hey, Camille, can you stop so I can see what kind of shoes? And she would probably oblige. Sure, Ed, why not? I'm just trying to set a world record here. But
they had a picture of her. They changed her shoes, and I'm pretty sure they were. Those are the shoes that all the marathoners are wearing, and they're just crushing their times. They supposedly make you 2-3% faster. They're definitely, but most people couldn't wear them in a 48-hour race.
Okay, so here's where I get my humiliation right here. There's me at the top with a 16:03 lap. Bob?
Yeah.
Oh, Bob must have taken a break because it shows. Oh, no, different Bob. Oh, Bob's there at the bottom. He just did 10:17. And Camille, where's Camille?
8:47.
Camille did 8:42.
I have it right here.
Yeah, you got all the stats. So, yeah. So you put Camille and Bob's together, and it's almost what my loop was.
Well, Camille's doing 2 laps to your 1.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because she's gone by.
Which is cool for me because I get to see her a lot. I'm bummed really because Camille, Bob, and Marisa, they are really doing something phenomenal. And every single person out here, in my opinion, should be moving over, let them have the tangent and encouraging them. And there's people, I guess, don't even know what they're up to. But every time I see them, I give them a big encouragement. And I know how much that means because I've gotten it myself from people.
Yeah.
So I make it a point of doing that. But and then so I try to, I'm not doing anything, that slow little mile. So I don't even take the tangent right now. I just keep it open because I did one corner. I wasn't paying attention and poor Bob had to go around me. He's like, oh, sorry, Bob. But of course he's like, no, it's okay. It's fine. All right, Camille, looking good.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, no, I mean,
looking good.
It's funny when you were saying, we're saying that Camille's lapping you every lap,
Yeah.
but at least it's a mile lap. Remember when I was at the Dome, on a 400-meter track, and Zach was lapping me on a 400-meter track.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Yeah, well,
that'll make you feel.
Well, because he was doing 7-minute miles and I was doing 16s, and so he was so he was doing it's like of course I did infamously jump in behind him and run behind him for like 15-20 seconds and made a video of him, so that was kind of fun. So so it's definitely, but people have been inspired watching the racing, and I've had a number of people like, I want to get in a race, and that's all the craziousness with the COVID is that we wish we could do races. So you're at the 127, and the Jennifer gal, she's been moving along. She's now just a mile behind you, Ed.
Oh,
I shouldn't tell you that.
No, it's okay because I'm counting on my experience to pull me through. She's got more speed than I do right now, but you know what? Her body, I don't. Again, this is all new territory for most of these guys out here that they're contending with me, I believe. So for them, they're learning as they go. And I remember my first 72-hour, man, I was in a brain fog on day 2 and ended up with 2:38. Would have had more, but you know the story, right, of what happened out there. So
wait, the people might not know. You should tell them what happened, because that's good.
All right.
Unless you got somewhere to go.
No, I do for the next day and a half. So there's Bill Schultz. It's Andy Noise.
Where'd he go, Andy Noise?
Hey, Bill.
He said, hey, Bill.
No, your story's good for somebody. Some people might have the same issue, so I think it's good to tell people about it.
Okay, so back in 2010, I showed up for my first Air Viper race. It was at the Nardini Manor in Buckeye, Arizona. Little 500-meter track that Roger Rubrick, who's done the Hard Rock a number of times, he had made this track around his home. It's exactly as a certified 500-meter course. Anyway, so they had a 100-mile race there, and this is my third 100-mile race. I did Nanny Goat twice, and that was it. And actually, this was my first 100-mile race. I'd done 224s where I got 102. So I show up at this. It's on Labor Day weekend in 2010, and it was pretty hot, and there was only, I think, 8 people in the 100, and all but 2 dropped out. And happens to be that I went a little faster than the second guy, so I won the race. So that was my first win. Anyway, so I did that race of theirs, and then they had a thing called Having a Hangover, which is a month before having 100. I went out and did that after I'd done the Flagstaff Marathon that morning, because that's a night event. And they were, sort of impressed with that I showed up and did a number of loops out there after I'd done a marathon. And then they had another race back at the Nordini Manor, the Fat Ox 50, they called it, did that one. Okay, so I'm there at that race, and it's back at Nordini Manor, and we're running around, and I'm talking to this guy, and he's like, oh, are you going to do ATY? Do you know about ATY? I said, yeah, I've heard about it, but I know it's full. It's a lottery. And I probably shouldn't even be saying this, but it was 10 years ago, so I'm sure it's fine. So just then, Camille, he was behind and comes up, and he heard me say that. He said, let's see what we can do. And he squeezed me into the ATY, and that was the last year they had it at Nardini Manor. So I signed up for they had a 24, 48, 72. So I signed up for the largest one they had, 72, and I'd never done more than a 24-hour or 100-mile race. Had no clue what to do, how to pace myself, none of that. And did decently, and got through to 100 miles on day 3 at like maybe 6 p.m. and it had 14 more hours to go, I think, or something like that. Anyway, I was just shot. My body was just destroyed because I didn't know how to sleep properly, didn't know how to pace myself. That's what I'm saying about people out here doing their first 72.
Oh, yeah.
Even though it was 10 years ago, I still remember what I was going through. Anyway, so I was like done, and I called Martha, and I said, I'm fried. I'm finished. And she said, no, take some. Actually, this is Martha's fault, because it was, I think, the first time I ever took ibuprofen in a race. She said, take some. If you're in that much pain, take some ibuprofen and take a little nap. And, because how are you doing in the race? And I'm like, well, I'm tied or I'm right with the first place guy. We're real close. And she's like, why don't you just stay in and I'll come out there. So she actually made a drive all the way from our house out to Buckeye, which is a 6-hour drive. She said, I'll come out there. And I'm out there and I'm cruising along, and then I start talking to the guy, Andreas Salk is his name. He's from one of the Norwegian countries, Sweden, maybe? Anyway, young guy, military guy, had set many national records in his 30s. Anyway, I talked to him, and this is probably 11 o'clock, and I knew that, see, I took a nap when Martha talked to me, and I was out ready to just go through the rest of the night, didn't need another nap. Well, I had been paying attention. He had not taken a nap since the night before. I knew he had to be really hurting. Yeah. So I said, and at that point he was like 3 loops ahead of me, like a little over a mile ahead of me, I think. So anyway, I said, hey, what if we did this? What if we, because you're going to go down for a nap and I'm going to just move on ahead of you. And I said, but if you agree to this and if you trust me, when you go down for a nap, I'll catch up to you. I need 3 more loops, and then I will take a nap myself, and then when you wake up, have your handler wake me up, and let's finish the race together as a tie. And he said, all right, let me talk about it. So he talked to his, we call it a handler, but it was a crew guy, and they were talking in their language. I had no idea, couldn't understand what they were saying. They were chatting for quite a while, and then he said, okay, yeah, he says, let's do it. That would be good. So now we're able to just kind of enjoy ourselves, and we had, I think, 5 miles ahead of the next guy, George Beyond It, from a guy from
yeah, I know the name.
Canada. Yeah, I was Prince Canadian. So anyway, I went and talked to the Corey brothers. I said, hey, Andreas and I have this plan, and as you know, with the HOI, they have national flags and state flags, and at the start area, the 2 national flags happen to be the U.S. flag and his Sweden or whatever it was. And I talked to him about this, and I said, what if when we finish, we do the final loop and we carry each other's flag? He's like, that would be so cool. So I went and talked to Camille and Nick at the time. They were both running Airvipa. And they said, oh, Ed, yeah. I said, is it okay if we take those flags and run with them? And they said, yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, happens to be that a friend of George Biondic overheard that. And so George comes up to us and says, hey, I want to be a part of that too. I want to make it the three of us. And we're like, well, I don't know about that. And so I said, let us talk about that. Mm-hmm. So I thought he would just hang back and we would talk about it. Well, he took off. And this was just past midnight where, they always do the celebration for the new year. And people were still out there on the course with their, champagne and sparkling cider. And he took off. And Andreas and I were like, we took off after him. And we were probably doing an 8-minute mile pace. Completely ridiculous, just foolish, stupid. Now, he wrote about this. There's an article that was published in Ultra Running Magazine, so you can go back and find it. But he said, we did it for 5 miles. It's like, heck no, there's no possible way we could do that. We did it for probably about 3 loops, which is, mile and a half or, so then finally he, settles down the pace, and Andreas said, no, Ed, I just want to be just you and me, because I didn't even know about this George guy. You and I have been battling it out at this race this whole time. And I just want to you and I do that. So I told George, and he was just really pissed about that. And so Andreas and I are doing our thing. And it's now about like 3 o'clock in the morning. We'd already taken our break. So we're, doing we got like 5 hours to go. So Andreas is running along, and suddenly he like grabs at his, groin. It's like, oh, it's like, what happened? He pulled a hamstring, and that was it. He's like, I can't even, I can walk a little bit, but I can't run anymore. And he's like, go, you just go and keep, we're walking, and just win. And it's like, no, I made a commitment that we would finish together. And I'm going to, keep with that. And so, of course, George slowly caught up and eventually passed us and took first place. And Andreas and I tied for second. And that was a lesson. That was a lesson learned that, Andreas had said, hey, you go. I don't want to hold you back. One of us should win, and you can still do that. And on hindsight, that's what I should have done. But, I was new to the racing scene and just didn't really give it much thought. But anyway, so that was my my first introduction to this 72-hour race. And we ended up with 238 miles.
I just pulled it up, and George ended up doing 248.
Yeah, we were going so slow at that point, barely moving on the course. And so he didn't have to move that fast with that much time left to start moving ahead of us. So, but good for him, hey, all's fair in love and war, and he earned the win. And so on hindsight, if we'd invited him in, and then Andreas, end up getting injured, hopefully, he would have said, well, we agreed to do this together. So, and there's no one anywhere close to the 3 of us. Anyway, but that's, that's life. That's the way it goes. So, but the whole point is, I remember how difficult that race was for me, especially day 2. I just had this total brain fog. It's like I'd wake up and it's like, where am I? Sleeping in my car. What am I doing? And my body was aching so bad. I'd never hurt so bad because I'd never done 3 days in a row. So anyway, and now it's funny because a lot of people doing their first multi-day here, and they'll ask me, oh, so have you done a multi-day before? It's like, yeah, probably about 30 or more, between 2-day, 3-day, 4-day, 6-day, and the 110-day. And I've gone over 200 miles. It's got to be at least 20 times or more. So, yeah.
Well, that was kind of interesting, bringing it back to, it's interesting. Like when I first started crewing more than myself doing, and also doing races, but it was amazing how people had such difficulty staying up for 24 hours and 100 miles. But then the very same people, when they jump into these multi-day races, they just look at the math and go, oh yeah, I can do this and that. And you're just like, yeah, you can run a 24-hour 100, but you're not going to do 272 hours, because that 36 hours looks simple, 36-hour hundreds. But then when you factor in sleeping and recovery and all that kind of stuff, it's just a whole other game. And people just refuse to listen or understand it, almost to a point where I almost hate doing a podcast like this, because people maybe will actually start listening, but I don't think they will. And
yeah,
actually start,
don't give them any help to
yeah, no, but they won't, because I'll in races
listen.
when I'm in multi-day races, and they'll slow down early in the race and maybe chat with me, I'll tell them, like, this is what you need to, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, and they'll, yeah, whatever, old guy. And then, then they go off and do what they do, and then they just have a horrible experience. It was interesting when you're talking about the sleep, Ed, is that's kind of what I figured out with sleep, is kind of what you were saying. What I do is, if my pace is decent and my feet are okay, I just keep walking. I don't sometimes want to, but it's like, hey, if you're doing 20-minute, for me, if I'm doing 20-minute miles, I might as well just keep going. But what I'll do when my pace really goes to crap or my feet are really hurting is I'll lay down and hit my watch, not with a timer, but I'll hit my watch. And if I roll over and only 15 minutes goes by, I'm like, well, I guess I wasn't tired. And I get up and go back out and walk. But if I'm tired, I'll pass out for about that hour 15, hour 30, and that hour, that's all you need. Because I tell people, if you go for more than an hour and a half or so, then you get into real world mode. And when you're in real world mode, then you're out of race mode. So everybody does these, like, they'll run really hard and then take a 4-hour break. And that 4-hour break is just death. You lose a ton of miles. Like me, I'm slow, but even 4 hours, I'm losing 12, 13 miles. You're using 15, 16. And when you get out, you just, it's so much better that, just fall. But the problem is people go, well, but Andy, I'm going to fall asleep and not wake up, which I guess is the case. But me and you have done it enough. But I think when you stay in that race mode where you just do those hour-and-a-half sleeps, not doing these 5-6 hour. I mean, I guess if I ever laid down and I really slept for 4 or 5 hours, I'd be like, well, that's what my body wanted me to do. And I'm kind of glad that I don't have to. But it's definitely, when you're talking about that, I was like, yep, that's my strategy. Definitely.
Hey, Amy. So look at Amy's shirt. It says, turn around so we can see your shirt. It says, run the crooked mile. Well, Amy's got that lean. I told her she should get a Sharpie and put, run the crooked mile with a crooked back.
Yeah.
So she thought that was funny.
She
didn't hit me or kick me, so I guess it was okay.
If you could just get her back lined up with the course.
Yeah.
I know. I've gotten that lean in the past few times too myself. And the one where it really bothered me the most, I've been getting it almost all the time now in multi-day races, which kind of sucks. But I was at Jackpot one year, and I wasn't having a particularly good time. And, we started the day before the 24-hour 100. And like at 2 a.m, people were talking to me, and I wasn't really paying attention. I didn't really realize what they were saying. But the Jackpot race is so well lit. I was walking on the back stretch, and I saw my shadow. And I went, oh, man, I'm leaning. And I was, I'm leaning at like 18, 19 hours into a 48-hour race. And in my head, I thought, you know what? When the next morning comes, the last thing I want to do is walk around here with 100 people going, hey, Andy, you're leaning. Hey, Andy, you're leaning.
All right, Camille, looking good. And, she's had a smile the whole time.
Oh,
Here we are, what are we, 9 hours in or so? Maybe getting close to 10, and just smile. Yeah. She's just making it look so easy, Yeah. But, it's she's pushing hard. Well, couple things. The lean. Martha, it's I've heard her say enough times, it's QL something, QL5, but she knows exactly the spot, and it's very painful, but she knows exactly the spot to work on. She's corrected people when she's come and crewed for me, and she sees people doing the lean. She's corrected them and got them straightened out. It's pretty basic if you know what you're doing. But also, back on the sleep thing, I would agree with you with the short sleep, except for you have the anomaly Joe Fejes, who will go out there and just burn it up, and then he'll sleep a whole long time, But
Yeah.
every time he's out on the course, he's doing 10, 12-minute miles. And if he
Yeah.
starts to slow down, he goes down and he
Yeah.
stays down for quite a long time.
Yeah.
All right, buddy, help us out. Pronounce your name. I'm on a podcast with my buddy Andy Noyes. Pronounce your name.
Kimani.
Kimani.
Yes. Yeah.
Kimani. All right. Oh, now you're in timeout. So she got in trouble. You put her in timeout now. Ah. All right. Good work, buddy.
Yeah. That's Kimani, who's in
Kimani.
second, 120 miles, second place man for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So but what I was saying, but see what Joe does is Joe like is very methodical in terms of he has his Mike Doby's doing all his spreadsheets. And in fact, I was talking to an athlete and they were talking about, sometimes you just got to go for it for these records. And I'm like, no, that's not how it happens. World records and endurance events are always usually negative split. You go faster the second half and they're methodical. You don't go out like a kamikaze in a 24-hour, 48. You don't even do it in a 10K. But what I said, and see what they do.
Hold on, Andy. Hold on. You guys are awesome crew. You're taking care of Camille amazingly. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
But what I was telling him is I go, what they do with Joe a lot of times is they say, okay, Joe, we want you to go out and do 20 miles. And if you get it done quicker, you get more rest. So he goes out there with a goal and motivation of like, okay, I got to do 20 miles in the next whatever time. And the faster I get it done, the faster I can get off my feet and go back to sleep. And so that's how, but he has a crew and pay timers who can definitely tell him what he needs to do.
You see, that is a key when you're doing these multi-day races, because you and I know when you're sleep deprived, when you're robbing yourself of sleep, you can't think, and you need someone to think for you and say, here's your job. Go out, do this.
Yeah.
Don't think of anything else. Just do this. It's like, okay, yes, sir. And you just do it.
Yeah.
And otherwise you're trying to think for yourself and you just totally screw yourself up. Oh, I can go at this pace, and you don't even make any sense,
Well, that's why I always love doing these races, and I'm out there with you and Yolanda I often work with too. You guys will come up and catch up to me and say, hey, do the math for me. And I always have my phone, so I'll whip the phone out. And between the two of us, we can usually figure out kind of ballpark numbers, sometimes difficult, but because we're both brain dead. But I've done that many times for many runners and athletes where we'll sit there and figure out, okay, what do I got to do to get to this and that kind of thing. And it's quite funny to have to do that. But that's definitely, there is a good philosophy. Like someone was talking to me about Camille, and I said, well, I've never seen her walk in a race. Like she either is running or sitting down. And it'll be interesting to see what she does in the 48, if she does some walking or if she's going to just take breaks and run. I mean, the thing is, if you can run 8-minute miles where you're running 9 miles an hour, well, she's running 8 miles an hour, I wouldn't walk either. Because miles just,
if you can do it. They had where I'm showing you, they had a wedding there earlier, which is pretty cool. Again, anything different is good. All right, there's Amy and Jamie. Hey, guys.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Andy.
Good morning. Hey.
Hi, Andy.
You keep moving there.
Keep moving. You're doing great. All right.
So have you heard what Camille, if you heard anything, what she's going to be doing tonight? Is she just going to run to a certain?
I don't really know. I haven't talked to anybody about what her plan or strategy is, but I mean, a couple of us were talking and going, so how many miles do you think she'll put up on day one? 150, 160. I don't think she'd go up to 160 because that's getting closer to her world record, and she'd be spent. But 140, maybe, or more. I don't know. Who knows?
I was going to bring up something here. Let me see. There he is. Because in her crew, she has Trishul Churns, who's Mr. 500.
Oh, I didn't know Trishul was out here. How did I not see him? He's here. He's here at the race.
He's crewing Camille. He's got a really good bushy beard. The last picture I saw of him.
Okay.
He's got a lot more of a beard than he usually has.
Okay, we'll have to make a point to look for him when I come by, because I know Trishul, Canadian guy that's held all kinds of records himself in his day. So
yeah. So he's working with her, which is really big, and because he's done 500 miles twice. He's the one that after I went to Vermont, me and him spent a bunch of time doing laps out there, and him telling me about the whole 500 goal and how there, there's only a dozen people have done 500. So that was so it's really nice that she's got him in the camp.
Hey,
and
speaking of which, how's that Philip guy doing? Is he, I don't even know, I still haven't met him, but is he still doing well, or how's he doing the race now for the 6th day?
He slowed down. He's at 3:46 now. So he's doing 18-minute miles. He's at 18 overall pace. But you got to do like 17 pace to get to 500. So he's out there.
Yeah.
So he'll probably get, getting to 450 would be pretty big. I don't, like I said, we looked up and he was just mainly, when we were looking at it, he's done this. Incredibly, he's done a couple 10 days more than the 6 days. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, out here, actually. I think he did the 10-day out here.
Yeah.
Before, yeah.
Yeah, we were looking at that.
Did 7:31 the 10-day one time in 6 something. I know because was it Amy? Someone was talking to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I've done 7:15. I know what that took. So if he did 7:31, that's
he did 7:31, and then last year he ran against Annabella and did like 6:60 across years. So it is interesting that this is really his like first 6 day, because he didn't. But yeah, Chishol churns. He's done a bunch of hundreds. I mean, about 275.
Hey, Bob.
So
sorry, didn't mean to crowd you there.
I was pull up here.
That brings something up. I was talking to Bill Hildebrand about this. We were talking about, and I might step on some toes here. And of course, this is my bias is going to show. But we were saying that it seems like in his day, Bill was the mountain trail 100-mile guy. He's done quite a few races with what's the German guy, Hans Dieter, Wiesar, back in the day, and so that was his event, and then he switched over to the fixed time events. But anyway, we were talking about how it seems like in the 100-mile events, the trail ones, especially when it's point to point, that the elite guys, you never see them except at the start line, and then they're out there doing their thing and they finish and then they go home. And I think it lends itself to them developing well, I'll just say it, kind of maybe a big, hey, Marisa, looking good. I think it lends itself in that situation for them to develop an ego, because they only hang out with elites. They don't hang out with us little people. But in these events, they're with us constantly, and that's why you take a person like Camille or Bob or Zach Bitter. They are the most down to earth. You wouldn't know Camille or Zach had world records if you didn't know it, because they're never going to brag about it. They're going to tell you, because they see what we're going through. They see our struggle, whereas the elite 100-mile trail runners, they don't see the struggle of the guy that's barely coming in and trying to make that cutoff or chasing cutoffs. So I really love that. I don't know, I could be wrong, but it seems to me like all of the top, Joe Fejes as well, all of the top fixed time event runners, they all seem, well, Giannis, he's a different character when we saw him out in 2013, but putting him aside, but all the other ones, they just seem to be really appreciative to be out here, and Camille goes by and she'll say, good job, Ed, I mean, that's amazing,
Well, I mean, it is a lot to do with, the familiarity. You definitely, that's one of the reasons I like doing the Loop races. And if you're spending 24 hours or 6 days with these people, you're definitely seeing them, and they get to see, how much effort you're putting in and they're putting in. And, they can realize like, hey, like the great Bill Rogers has said that when he was running 2:10 marathons, and he was at New York and they were interviewing him hours after the race. And he's like, well, what you do, Bill, is amazing. He goes, I was born a runner. I'm, 5'10", 130 pounds. He goes, what's amazing is these people taking 5 and 6 hours to do a marathon. He goes, I wouldn't want to do anything for that long.
Yeah.
And he goes, and they're working just as hard as I am. I mean, when I'm doing a 24-hour race, I'm working as hard as Zach. It's just I'm 3 times slower, but I'm also I'm 2 times. I'm
but
2
you
times
push
bigger than him.
yourself. You
Yeah.
push yourself to the limit that you have, you
Yeah.
know, and
And
that's the best, you know, just like he's pushing his limit. He just happens to have a limit that's so far out there. Yeah, it's a, you know, I met Meb K a couple times because Skechers used to be my shoe sponsor, and so we did some events together. And he, a really super down to earth, really very shy. He's a little guy, but also very introverted, very shy, but very super sweet, super nice, not at all, you know, with the ego.
Well, I when I took my 2008 drillers to Mammoth, he was training up there with Coach Bob Larson and Dina Castor and all of them. That's where the United States team trained. And they had a Friday pasta feed. The town of Mammoth actually put it on for all the cross country kids. And there was a couple hundred of us, and we had free pasta. And I have a picture of us with Meb. And my cross country team were a bunch of big kids. They're all like 5'10" to 6 foot tall. And we have a picture of my varsity with Meb, and Meb is like 5'7", and my guys are 5 foot, 10. And I have his picture out to pull it up someday. It's a great photo. But yeah, Meb's a nice guy. I think part of it though too is that I think you're also that it's kind of like the chicken or the egg kind of thing. I think the type of personality of people who gravitate towards a trail versus gravitate towards what you're doing are different types of people. And
I agree with you because, and again, I might step on some toes, but for lack of a better term, I don't, trail snobs isn't very nice, but people who they swear, I would never do one of those races. That's just so boring.
Yeah.
I would, which is sad because if they did one, now they might do it and go, no, I'll never do this again. But there are plenty of trail people who come out and done one. And these are like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. I actually like that.
Yeah.
Oh, so they switched it now where they're posting it way up on the side of the barn. So it's really big. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, so, what it also comes down to, it's just kind of like, when you're in high school, you've got the cool kids, the cheerleaders and the football players. And then you've got the freaks and geeks. You've got the drama kids, the band kids, and the cross country team. And it's just kind of carries on over to, because trail running has always been for like quite a long time, the cool thing. And so, and the thing is, I always tell people, like, if you really like to run, sign up for a 24-hour or 48-hour race because you get to run. In a trail race, you don't run. You don't really like to run. You like being out in the woods, and you like to hike.
But that's part of the problem is because those guys, when they get on a flat event like this, they just they run continuously because they're used to the course giving them the walk breaks. Well, when you're on a flat event, there's no walk breaks, and they don't know how to incorporate those in. So I've seen many that just blow up because they just don't know how to properly, it's pacing again. They just don't know how to do it because they're not used to that.
Well, you know me, I say whatever I want, whenever I want. And I was at Desert Solstice the last time I was there a couple years ago. And Patrick Regan, great guy. We were talking about him yesterday, how he has the course records. He has course records at Javelina, 13 hours and all that stuff.
Right.
Well, he was there doing the 24-hour 100. And I think he actually stopped it. I don't think he went the whole 24, but it was funny after I talked to him before the race and kind of helped him set up some stuff and got to know him a little bit.
Yeah.
But then what was really funny is after he finished the 100, I went over and congratulated him. I go, congratulations on your first 100. And he looked at me oddly. He goes, I've run 100s before. And I go, nah, trail 100s don't count. He looked at me like, what the fuck? And I go, well, I've seen you after Javelina. You don't look this destroyed. And he's like, well, yeah, you got a point there, Andy. I was like, of course I do. A real 100 is on a loop course, and there's nothing more real than doing 100 miles on that damn Arizona Central High School track. You do 100 there, that's a real 100. And I just straight up told him, I said, trail 100s don't impress me at all. It's like, it's whatever, but you get to go.
I'm curious. What was his time on that event? Was it anything comparable to his 100-mile times?
I'm going to look at it. We're great minds think alike. I'm Googling it right now. But I mean, like I said, it kind of goes hand in hand. And it's nothing again, but it's just a totally different beast. But I like, and Kuros, and many people say it, and I say it all the time, and I don't really care if people get pissed off at me. I'm like going, trail running isn't running. What I tell people is trail running and what you're doing right now in road running is it's chess versus jazz. Trail running is jazz.
You look at, as far as I know, Kuros only did Western States once. Now you would think, oh, this guy had to destroy it. He did an 18-hour at Western States. I would take that, of course, any day. But compared to, 15, 16 hours, 18 hours for a guy like Kuros, it's just because that just wasn't his event. He destroyed everything else, but he just didn't run trails that much.
What I meant was I call trail running jazz, because like jazz music, it just happens in the moment. They don't really rehearse and practice it. And
improvisation.
Once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
What you're doing,
it'll never be duplicated again the same way, because
it can't ever. So the musicians aren't as high as they were, the atmosphere, whatever. And like I keep telling people, oh, Walmsley broke the Western States course, and I was like, yeah, but when Timothy broke it, it was the snow course and it was a cold day. So what if Walmsley goes out there in a completely different year and runs faster? And I said, in 50 years, if we keep having these fires, there won't even be a Western States. It may be it may be all condos. But I said, but Joe Fee just did 606 miles. In 300 years from now, you can go find a looped course and try and beat that. Just like you can still play Beethoven and Bach and sound like how Beethoven and Bach wrote it. You can play a symphony and it sounds like the symphony, and that's the difference. You can't replicate trail performances. You can't compare trail performances. But like the kid who broke the 5K record the other day, is 16 years old.
This is Andy Noyes.
Hey, Andy, how you doing, man?
Good.
He is telling me you're out here crewing for Camille, and I said, how come I didn't see him? He's like, he's got this big old beard.
I know, he's got more of a beard.
I've been wearing your socks, the Jester socks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he
For-
is.
Awesome.
Lots of races.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love them. Unfortunately, I tried to ask if they would be my sponsor for just give me free socks, and I got up on the wrong foot with the owner of Drymax, and it didn't go well. So I have to pay for these socks, but that's okay. It's okay. I get free shoes from Ultra, so I'll take that.
Yeah.
Good seeing you guys.
Cool. Awesome. All right.
Andy, how are you doing? You feeling better from your heart thing?
Oh yeah, much better.
I
I'm
can't
back
hear
to.
He says, oh yeah, much better.
Right.
Yeah.
Happy to hear that.
Yes.
Good to see you. And
Yes, very-
Camille, if you go on my timeline, I've been posting her splits. Have you been following that?
Yes, I have, and I've been
Okay.
reposting them and stuff too.
He's been reposting them on Facebook.
Right. That's good, because I'm going to keep track of all of that, so the whole world's watching.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they have a live feed here. So
They do have a live feed here. Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
But what we'll do is take lots of pictures.
Unfortunately, you can't go back and look at her loops. It's only the two at a time, and they don't have any of the history, unfortunately. So if you're recording them,
I'm
that would be good.
recording everything. I video.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, and there she is.
Yeah, we've been
All right,
watching
very
it.
cool.
Tell him I've been reposting. We've been watching it.
He's been reposting it, so I'll let you take care of Camille. Awesome.
Well, no, so like I was saying, that the beautiful thing about what we're doing like now is like Camille and Bob Hearn and everyone, they're going for these records. And that's why I'm always on you about, Ed, get me 500 a 6 day, because in 100 years, people are going to remember you doing 500 miles. So looking back on the Desert Solstice, it took him 14:04 to do it on a track.
How funny, compared to 3 sub-14s at Javelina. With 6,000 feet of gain on a lot of technical areas and sand, and
he only got 130 miles in the race.
Wow,
he missed.
Of
course, and they'll say, "Well, I stopped early," and I'm like, "No, you didn't. It's a 24-hour race. The clock stops. You don't get to dictate your."
Okay, so tell me what sport can you be with the world's best and be right there hanging out, and she's going by, oh hey, how you doing? I mean, I don't know, what sports you could do that, and obviously she is at this point in what she does. She is the world's best, so it's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, no, that's always the fun, and but no, so yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just, but you know, it's just, you know, it's good that we have a variety. But I often tell people that the problem we have is the ultra world for the past decade has been way too obsessed on trail running and trail races. And the problem with it is that public lands, as we talk about, you know, get harder and harder to use. And these races are much more friendly for everybody. And it would be nice to have them definitely keep going. So good stuff. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad you realized he's there, Trishal's there, and her husband's helping her too. And yeah, they've been doing good coverage. Like I reposted it, and like her 50-mile split was like 6 hours and something. It was some crazy fast.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
So,
wow.
And
she's something else.
so what's your plan then for today, the rest of the evening?
Well, my plan is to just keep moving. I mean, thankfully, with you being on this podcast with me, I've put up, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 miles since we've been on, and it doesn't even feel like I'm doing anything. Just because I'm distracted. So, and my pace has been a little better. You know how it is when your mind's distracted. Plus, it's cooler, and because it's cooled down a bit, I think that works better for my. I mean, I can run in heat, 120 degrees, but for some reason, my adrenals, when it gets cooler, I seem to be able to pick it up a little bit. And so I did last night. I picked up the pace a bit, and I'll see if I can do some walk run, and I'm going to try and keep my sleep breaks to a minimum, and let my body dictate. And so I'm hoping that as these people go down for their second night and take their long sleep breaks, that I could build a nice, extend the mileage if possible, so that when they wake up tomorrow, I'd love to have 20 miles on everybody, so that I don't have to worry too much. But
it was funny
thinking.
I was looking at your miles the past couple, and yeah, it's like funny how you're walking along, talking to me, talking to other people, and still doing sub 16, which
I'll take it.
That, and 16 pace is 90 miles in 24 hours.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Because that's my goal.
Point.
Yeah, that's my goal someday.
At this point to be doing 16-minute miles for sure.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Well, yeah. Because I looked earlier and you were doing you're probably taking some breaks and stuff, but you had a few slow ones there.
Yeah.
And thought maybe you were like preparing. So yeah. Okay. So that's kind of like
and I wasn't expecting to do 96 miles on the first day, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done that before, but I was thinking 80, 85, and but having the 96, it actually makes it a little easier to get some kind of the numbers I want to get for the whole 3 days. So we'll see.
Camille's 50-mile split was 6:44.
Wow.
Yeah, you guys were all going. We talked about it yesterday. All of you in the 72 were just going balls out crazy yesterday. I mean, you guys all put up big numbers. What, you guys were just egging each other on all night, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. So here's my ego. I don't want to have Camille do more miles than me in 48 than I do in 72. So I'd like to get my mileage to where, I don't think I can. I mean, 250. I'd have to hit that. I don't know if I can do that, but anyway.
That puts it really in perspective though, because you're a really good 48, 72 guy, but she's gonna do 48 and get you.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically
sure.
the difference between me and you. Me and you is about a third. You know how I can do. We were talking about I'll do 200, you do 300. It's kind of the same. We're kind of the similar stuff. So, well, that's good stuff. Well,
Camille's taking quite a break because we passed her, and usually she's like right up behind me, so she must be sitting there doing something, whatever. Maybe doing some foot care or something.
She hit 70. She's still at her 8:30, 8:33 pace. The other gal is falling back a little. Marissa's at 66. Does Marissa have anybody out there with her?
Yeah, she's got 2 people crewing her. I think Bob is solo. I don't know.
Bob said that Camille's people were helping him. But
that's good, because that's just too hard to. I luckily, I told you yesterday that it takes me 2 minutes to fill up their little water container. Is kind of slow. It took me 2 minutes to every couple hours, 2 or 3 minutes. So Seamus said, "Hey, Ed, I'll take care of it." So what I do now is I plop my bottle upside down when I finish it. So when he sees upside down bottles, and they're color coded, so he knows which ones to do water, which ones to do Gatorade. So that really is helping me out, be able to come in and just grab a bottle and run or walk. So that's good.
Oh yeah, no, Seamus has always been great at helping the people out and that stuff. Looking forward to seeing him. It's like I said, I was chatting back and forth with Scott, Canada, and he's listening. And
Super Dave.
And we were talking about how he's like, God, I really want to do a race. He goes, I want to be out there with you guys. And I said, yeah, we all do. It's definitely just a shame that all this kind of craziness is still going on. I guess you probably even heard the news, not to get crazy politics, but did you hear who got COVID? Who tested positive?
Martha sent me a text. She said Trump and what's his last name?
Melania. Yeah.
Melania both tested positive for COVID.
Yeah, wow. that happened last night. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but
that just adds more fuel to the flame now.
Yeah, and they're saying that probably what sparked it, because Hope Hicks got it, who's his right-hand woman, basically, is that they think that when they did the whole announcing of his Supreme Court candidate, they had a huge thing for that, and of course nobody wore a mask, and they're pretty sure that's the event where they all got it. Now Pence didn't get it supposedly, and Biden's good. In fact, they actually had Marine One come pick up him and take him to Walter Reed. He was walking onto the helicopter, but when you get taken to the hospital for something, that's not, you're not fooling around. So it's interesting.
True.
Of course, the thing that's very interesting is Michael Moore, who's made all those great documentaries, like on the, all the great documentaries. He says, he goes, it could be true, or he could be faking it. You never know with the guy. It could be just trying to pull one on everybody, like, hey, I have it. Maybe give me a little sympathy, blah, blah, blah. And then look, I come back. All right,
Camille, looking awesome.
Oh, speaking of that, you guys have a full moon, because yesterday was a full moon. Was it pretty good lighting there?
Except for this part, this little segment I told you yesterday, it has some grass, and then this kind of a packed dirt. Other than that, it's really good lighting. And the full moon, I guess, I didn't have any trouble with it, so I wasn't worried about it. But I haven't had to use a light, so it's good.
Because they were talking about that there's a blue moon this year. There's 2 full moons in October. And like I was telling you yesterday, Bakersfield in California is still full of smoke. So we've been having nice orange moons and nice orange suns. In fact, I'm going to probably go out here in another hour or two. It's still 95 degrees here in Bakersfield.
Wow. No, it's got to be like 50s right now.
I sent you a weather report last night. I don't know if you saw your phone, and it said it was supposed to rain like today. But I guess you didn't get the rain.
Nope.
It was 70%
we got last
rain.
night. No, we got last night, but it's been clear, and now the skies, there's no clouds now.
Good.
So I'm hoping that we'll have, between now and the end of the race, we won't have any more rain. There's something I was going to say. I forgot. It'll come back to me. But we're. I was going to say, I get to have 2 full moon races then in October, because now and then having 100 will be full moon. So
Yeah, they were just, but I was kind of just curious to how the lighting. It seems like it's pretty well lit, so that'll help Camille. I mean, it was just the weather report I looked up. I used this dark wave, which is pretty good, and it said 70% chance of rain on Friday. So I guess it came in the evening, but then the next day said it was going to be pretty good. So hopefully it will stay dry and Camille can keep on going, and so she'll be stopping the same time you are. But everybody finishes Sunday morning, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I'm brain free. I'm not the one who's been up for most of the time. Yeah, because
as typical, there are some people that showed up. Did their race. The 24 or 48-hour guy started yesterday. But for the most part, everybody's going to finish up Sunday morning, and then I need to. So the good thing is it's a whole bunch of people. So I'm sure I can find someone that can give me a ride to Newark. It's 50 miles away, so I don't have to Uber it, but I'm sure I can jump on with somebody. And then my friend Eugene, 85-year-old guy, lives in Chicago, and he's going to next weekend take me to the race, which is 2-hour drive away. So that's going to make it nice.
Yeah, you were talking about that. So, yep, you're at 130. Smith is 121, and Jennifer's at 128. So
131. Yeah, I just hit 131. So yeah. Camille's last loop. Okay, so yeah, 12:49 because she took a 4-minute break at her at her station. So yeah, but like the story of how in her 24 she stopped and then had a Taco Bell run and then got kind of I guess energized back up and took off. So
well, it's really funny. I've been doing this silly YouTube stuff while I put this on YouTube, and I've been trying to kind of follow the rules of YouTube about it's called SEO, search engine optimization, and putting tags and things in my stuff. And it's so funny when you put in Camille Herron, it always comes up Camille Herron Taco Bell, Camille Herron beer.
She'll be known for that. Forget her world records. It's the beer and the Taco Bell.
Yeah. Those are the tags that come up, the most popular tags, so she should definitely have some more Taco Bell and she maybe get a Taco Bell sponsorship. But yeah, it's just funny. Like, it's the weirdest thing when you do the search engine things, like what key terms come up, because like David Goggins comes up all the time when you type in ultra. And he's never won anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, but you type and I like.
Hey, Marisa, nice work. Yeah, it cracks me up with David Goggins. I mean, I've met him. I met him at Badwater in 2014, and so he has this reputation like, oh, he is the baddest ass ultra guy ever. Well, okay, so. And again, I'm not putting the guy down, but he's done Badwater 3 times. 1 time didn't finish. I'm 9 for 9.
Yeah.
I have comparable. I think he might have dropped under 30 once, but I have times that are comparable, and and I've done 24-hour races that were quite a bit further. So I mean, it's cool. He's got a market. But it just cracks me up when someone, especially non-runners, when they hear I'm an ultra runner. Oh, do you know who David Goggins is? Yeah. Oh man, that guy is the most amazing ultra runner in the world. And it's like, he's pretty cool. I mean, I don't want to be a jerk, so it's like, he's pretty cool. Yeah, I've met him. I don't tell people. Yeah, I beat him. But
no, I mean you Google. But it's just funny when you type in the things with people. Now, what's kind of cool is when you type in Bob Hearn, it comes up Bob Hearn Ultra Runner. So you got to tell him sometime. He's becoming famous. So when you type in Bob Hearn, it wants to tag him as Ultra Runner. So Bob's becoming known. and rightly so.
Speak of the devil, here he comes.
Yeah, rightly so. He should be known. But no, it just was funny. It's just entertaining. Like, like I've met Dean Karnassus, and he's a really great guy. I mean, a lot of people say stuff about him, but I ran a 50K 50 miler one time. I did the 50K. He was the 50 mile Marin, and he caught up with me, and we ran together for a while, and it was fun just kind of interacting with him. And then of course at Santa Barbara, when him and Joel hooked up together, and I took that picture of him
Bob.
and Joel.
Way to go, man!
Good job there, Bob.
You're a rock star, buddy.
And Dean took the fake picture of him sleeping with Joel at the aid station.
Cool.
Well,
he's a cool guy. I mean, it really bugs me when people, if anybody says anything bad about Dean, and I'm there, I'll say, I don't know what your experience with him is, or are you just going by rumor? Because I've actually interacted with him a number of times, and at Big Sur Marathon, at Badwater, always been a very polite, gracious individual. So I don't know
he's a great spokesman for the sport. He came into mile 75 just destroyed, and people were coming up and talking to him, wanting to sign autographs, and he's doing it. And you're thinking, this poor guy is trash, but he's like, he's still being as pleasant as he. I mean, you're just like, wow, So he's a cool guy. Speaking of that, it was kind of funny. You were talking about like all the people in the loop races are great. Always everybody talks about Kuros and how he was and stuff. And it was funny because I had the exact opposite with Giannis. I spent days, and he was out there all night and all day trying to catch Joe because he's just not as fast as he used to be. And so a lot of times Giannis was with me. We were kind of doing the same pace. And in fact, it was funny. Like after a couple of days, I realized like, wait, I'm friends with Joe. I'm American. What am I doing helping Kuros? You know,
Yeah.
like I was actually, I mean, I really was helping.
You traitor you. Yeah.
But I mean, like I would yell at him a couple times when he was like walking off the course, and I was, you know, pacing him kind of in a lot of ways. We just happened to be out there at 3 a.m. But, you know, he was always nice and late. After 3 or 4 days of the race, he knew who I was. And so, like, whenever a new race started, I would tell him, like, hey, the new race is starting. And I, heads up, don't get run over. And then, of course, I always infamously say that when I got to I was going on my mile 300, I caught up to Kuros and I told him, I said, hey, I'm getting to 300. This is my first time to 300. And he's like, he's like, oh, congratulations. And I said, do you mind if I do my 300th mile with you? He's like, sure. Just don't run in front of me because I don't want you kicking up the dust, because the dust was bugging him. And
Sure.
I did my 300th mile with Kuros. And what was amazing though, Ed, is as we got towards the timing mats, he started to slow down, and then he actually stopped, shook my hand, and then ran off.
Nice.
And I'm like, yeah. So.
I didn't have, I guess it wasn't really fair. I didn't have any bad experience with him. And
he's
I got
just
to give the
yelling
guy
at his crew.
He was, and he was very, very determined, and he wanted his tangents. And if you were in his way of his tangent, he'd nudge you to get his tangent. But you got to give the guy credit. He did 550 miles in his 50s, and how difficult would it be for you if you've won every single race you've ever been in your life and set world records, and now you're getting beat,
Yeah.
Even the guy's like 10 years younger than you.
Well, that was the thing that was funny about Kuros, and I always tell people, is like he was running the tangents like a Formula One race car throughout the whole race, and even when late at night when he was really tired. But the thing that was funny is he couldn't walk a straight line, but he could still cut the tangents. So like when we were going through the ballpark where it's all twisty turning, he was cutting the curve. He was cutting the tangents well. But then when we got on the straightaways, like in the parking lot, he was
all over the place.
I think if you put a GPS on him, he probably went farther than Joe because he was all. I mean, well, there was a couple times where he almost walked into the lake, but I mean, he was hard on his crew but lovely. It was one of my highlights was. I did mile 300 with him, and I did mile 200 with Joe Fejes. And that's why I tell people out, you listen to podcasts, come out to these races, and you just get to see all these amazing people. And you might get lucky enough sometimes to roll up and do a lap or two with them as long, I always, and that's the kind of things. And I know like people are enjoying doing a podcast. I talked to Scott, of course, and then Steve Hernandez wrote me today asking me about your race and how you're doing. And he was going to watch the video and stuff. So I'll be posting this up there, and I'll let you go there so you can kind of get concentrated on stuff. I was going to say, if Ed, if you do get to a point where you're getting tired or wanted some company, shoot me a text. And if I happen to be up, we'll do another podcast. We can do one obviously again, but if there's,
I might just take you up on that. Cause you know how it is when I get sleepy and I start walking all over the place. So,
well, that's the thing I miss the most is, we used to always hook up late at night and walk for a couple hours. And that's kind of what this whole podcast is supposed to be like. And, someday hopefully we'll have that again. We haven't done a race together in quite some time, obviously. So yeah, so definitely.
I was just thinking tomorrow, what if we shift it a bit later, like late in the night or early morning, and do a podcast when I don't know. What do you think? Like it's past midnight here, which midnight here would be 9 o'clock your time. Yeah. So maybe there's a different perspective of being out here and on the final day for everybody, and just seeing what kind of carnage there is and what people are up to. So
well, yeah, just send me probably kind of know me. I sleep really weirdly. I'll go to bed, sleep for a few hours, wake up, being up for an hour or two. That's one of the things that helps me in multi-day races. And so just kind of send me a text saying, hey, my phone's charged and I'm kind of running low and I want to get a few miles in and kind of can help you out. And I think it'll be, obviously interesting for everybody else. You can kind of give us your own perspective of the race and what's going on and people running by. So yeah, just say, kind of shoot me. Well, we'll definitely talk again, but if there's a certain time or I'm at you, do you have your phone on you or do you usually put it away?
No, I put it away, so I only get it when I know that like we're having a time that we're going to do this podcast. So, and I'll just put it aside and let it charge up.
That's one thing I was gonna before I let you go is you never listen to music or anything, do you?
I don't, but you know what? I've been and now that I've got my phone with me, I've got my earbuds in. I might put on like a YouTube, like a guy I've been like, okay, Joe Rogan Experience. I can listen to him, but a guy that I've been really getting into is Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's actually been interviewed by Joe a number of times.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, because those guys have. I mean, that's what I meant, music or podcast. Because it's amazing that the two people who are known for just amazing performances and mega miles, you and Yolanda, are out there. Of course, you often are talking to everybody. Yolanda's just in her zone, but Yolanda never listens to music or pop. And I'm always like, how in the world do you guys do it? I mean, granted, usually you do hook up with people, but yeah, both of you guys aren't out there because I'm always listening to the tunes. If I'm not with somebody or something, I always have my phone kind of with me, but that's just kind of, I got to have it just to keep. That's why I'm such a lousy hiker because I can't, my battery dies and I don't have any internet. I always tell people if the mountains had battery and internet, I'd be the greatest hiker in the world. But I just get bored out there. So
well, you know, you can always use those solar, those portable solar charging unit things.
They've gotten better. I haven't hiked it lately, but they've gotten better. Yes. But then the problem is you got to load up everything before you leave, and I never know what. Though I've got so many podcasts, I'm so far behind on Joe Rogan and stuff, mainly because I haven't been doing any races. So yeah, definitely. Well, let's try. Maybe I'll shoot you a text, or we'll definitely try and do it other times. We obviously will get together again. So keep on moving.
Why don't we same bat station, same bat time tomorrow? Do our 6 o'clock my time, 3 o'clock your time, and then at that point. Maybe we'll say, all right, 12 hours from now, let's do one more.
Sure.
If you think that's something that people might be interested in. Maybe they can get a perspective of what it's like for a 72-hour guy to be the final night sleep deprived, because I'm not planning on getting a whole lot of sleep tonight or tomorrow night if I can help it.
And so, also you'll be out there with Bob and Camille finishing up their race too. So it'll be interesting. People will be like to see that perspective. So sounds good. Cool. And we'll let you go now so you can get down there and start doing some mile. In fact, I lost your video. So okay, Ed, I'll talk to you tomorrow evening or afternoon, and if not sooner. Yeah.
All right, sounds good, Andy. All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.